Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 40 of the Canberra Football Show. I'm Matt Nicoletti. Joining me today, always here for the big occasions, Russ Gibbs.
Yeah, I'm always here for the rounded numbers, aren't I? For some reason, it just seems to work out that way. But yeah, 40 shows. Brilliant. Well done, boys. A few more for the half century. We'll have to have something nice and big for that.
Yeah, actually, I was thinking about that. Might need to, yeah.
Will that be season review time or will that be
I haven't even...
finals time? It could be about that.
As the story you told me just before we went on here, I haven't even looked yet, so I'm gonna have to do the numbers.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me again. Looking forward to chat all things football.
Michael, how's it going today?
Yeah, good, thanks. It could all just align beautifully for that sort of half century mark, but we'll see. Obviously, I can't think on at the top of my head sort of when exactly 50 episodes will be in and around sort of this season, but obviously very excited to reach 40 episodes. It's a great achievement, but it's gone very quick as well. Doing this every week. I mean, it just obviously just continues to build. And 1 minute you're thinking, oh, we're only sort of, 3 episodes in, and now here we are and we're 40 down. So we'll see how many more we can do.
I definitely felt that about this season so far. We are nearing the end of the season and the exciting end of the season, as we will mention in all these leagues. Let's get started with a very exciting matchup Russ and I called on the weekend. Canberra Olympic 2, Gungahlin United 3. Of course, we're starting with NPL 1. Brindabella Madrid on the score sheet with a brace, and Dom Giampaolo scoring for Gungahlin United. Like I mentioned, very, very entertaining contest. Gungahlin United sort of solidified themselves in third place. Now, of course, they still have a matchup in hand as well. Crawford scored both the goals for Canberra Olympic. He's been in fantastic form recently, hasn't he? And Russ has had some good calls for some of those goals there, especially that, was it the second one? It was absolutely brilliant strike. Great fight back from the Gunners, though. So we'll mention on air, it was sort of similar to the match that Russ and I called there in the first fixture of matches, except Gungahlin this time got the extra goal and won the contest instead of it being 2-2. But they did it before halftime, which gave them all the momentum sort of heading in. Brindabella Madrid once again just displayed yet again why he is one of the best finishers in the league. And before I go to you, Russ, where is he on the goal scoring charts now? He's got to be near the top now.
Brindabella Madrid,
yep.
13 goals. He leads the way. Then there's Nick Popovic and Iso Surahegi on 9. I believe this is off the top of my head. So, then there's a couple of guys now floating around on 8. Jimmy Crawford amongst them. So it's quite a close little run thing. I think Nick Popovic will be eyeing up these games in hand and thinking, oh, can I close it up on Felipe? Because there's quite a friendly rivalry between those two. And I had a chat with Felipe about it before the game on the weekend, and he actually did say to me, and I agree 100%, being a centre forward myself, or former one, whilst you don't really look at it, you do look at it.
Yeah.
And any striker that says they're not is a liar. And it generally means, and as Felipe said on the weekend, it means that your team's doing well. And it means that you're at the top of the scoring charts. I think Daniel Barach might be on 8 now as well. He got a couple we'll talk about later. But yeah, he's on the way.
He certainly is. And what did you think about this matchup overall, Russ? Once again, good comeback from Gungahlin. And like I mentioned, nearly wrote itself like the previous script, except Gungahlin went all the way this time.
It did, didn't it? It was that game earlier in the season we were at where it was 2-0 and Gungahlin scored twice in 2 minutes to get them back on level terms. And they did exactly the same thing as you mentioned in the first half. It was quite remarkable, really, wasn't it? Jimmy Crawford scored 2 in round 2, I think it was. Then went 10 matches without a goal and now is 6 in 4, which is a good return for him. He's finding the net, which is good because Iso Surahegy's kind of dried up over the last couple of weeks. Although I did mention to him beforehand, he has scored in 9 games this season, 9 separate matches, which I think is probably the most out of any player in the league. In terms of games you've scored in. But they were 2-0 up and they were looking like they were going to win the match, weren't they? They were looking comfortable. Gungahlin hadn't created much. And then all of a sudden, out of nothing, Dom Giampaolo, as he's wont to do, scored. And Felipe Brindabella Madrid showed us what he's capable of with a couple of really classy finishes. And he's been in good form when he's been put through one-on-one. Bit of controversy about that third one, wasn't there? The Olympic claimed he was offside. I think Adam Forner, as we said at the time, played him on with that. Play at the ball with a header. I think Robbie Catnach should be disappointed his team couldn't hold on to at least half-time at 2-1 or even 2-0 because they've dropped off the pace a bit, haven't they? And they probably fallen away from the race from the top 4 at the moment. Although, and we'll talk about it later, they've got a game on Tuesday night or tomorrow night against Tuggeranong, and if they can win that, be back into it. For Gungahlin and Marcel Munoz, they just keep ticking along nicely. They're getting some good form under their belts. They bounced back nicely from their defeat last week, and they're finding the net at the right time. And I actually think they've got the best trio of forwards in the competition for me in Michael John, Felipe Bernardo, Madrid, and Mishko Namoski. And they thoroughly deserved their win in the end in what was a very entertaining game, wasn't it?
It certainly was. Michael, any thoughts on this one before we move on to the next matchup?
Yeah, I think like you mentioned there about Bernardo, Madrid, obviously leading the goal scoring charts. I just think that one big takeaway I had sort of just watching those goals that he scored on the weekend, and not only just the weekend, but what he's been able to do over the whole season. He's probably the best finisher in the competition in terms of when he's through one-on-one, he just manages to find, the far corner with excellent precision, and you can almost just rely on him and almost sort of expect as soon as he's put through that he's going to find the back of the net somehow. And I just think that there's no one better. There's no one else that you want more than a player like Bernardo Madrid in those situations, because 9 times out of 10 he's going to finish that situation off. So he's in great form, and obviously when you've got a striker in good form, like you said, Russ, your team's going to be doing well as well. So hopefully he can keep that up and fend off the other contenders that are looking to get themselves near that golden boot status.
Let's point out though, I mean, I agree with you. I think he is the best one-on-one finisher in the competition. Doesn't look like missing when he gets in, but he's just finishing off what everyone else is creating at the moment, and their team is looking really good. The defensive setup with Buddy Abbas in it has been very, very good. They brought in Stefan Vucic on the weekend, and he looked very good coming into that back 4 as well. And I understand Jack Green will be back before finals time as well. That'll be a huge, a huge addition to them, coming in at the right time at the right place. Let's hope he's not rushing back too soon, because we'll love to see Jack back and fully fit on the field. But they're in good form all round. They've got Josh Laguda back between the sticks next week as well. He's available. Jacob Quinn on the weekend was excellent. He made some really good saves, didn't he? So there's a decision for Marcel Munoz to be made over which one of his very good goalkeepers he's going to put between the posts. Yeah,
there was one reaction say he made with his leg, which was fantastic. Sort of just pulled it out right in front.
And the Rowan Jones one from the header as well. It's a super save.
Yeah,
certainly was. What's our next matchup, Michael?
Our next matchup, we're going to be talking about one of the most sort of informed sides in the competition at the moment, and that's the Monaro Panthers, as they were able to win yet again in a close 1-0 win against Belconnen United. McLaughlin getting on the score sheet for the Monaro Panthers there in the first half. Like I mentioned, they're one of the informed teams in this NPL season at the moment, Monaro. It's 4 wins in a row that they've managed to put together, which is fantastic for that team, and also Frank Keisha. And they got a win against a very good Belconnen United side, who were, obviously in a bit of form themselves heading into that one. They had won their previous 3 matches. And Matt and I discussed previously how even before those 3 matches, Belconnen was sort of struggling to get wins on the board. But then obviously the last 3 games, they were able to put some really good form together and important victories. But it was Monaro who came out on top in this game. And you already knew it was going to be a very good game in that opening sort of minute, or just after the minute mark. It was when Monaro created a chance, and it fell to Sam Woods, and you thought he was going to score for all money, but he just smashed it against the crossbar. To the disbelief, you could hear the crowd going, "Oh my god!"
Yeah, the mics picked that up pretty well.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, but nevertheless, they were able to put that to the back of their minds and go forward. And I thought the build up for their goal was fantastic. It was Jeremy Habtemarian playing a little ball to Tim Boblis, who took a nice touch down the right touch line and cut the ball back in beautifully for McLaughlin, who found himself free in the box with a nice left-footed volley. And that obviously proved to be the difference in the game. That And I think as a whole, this Monaro team's just brewing with absolute confidence at the moment at a very important stage of the season. You know, we don't have too many games left. Teams are fighting for spots in the top 4, and they've finally got themselves in there. And that's a position where we expected them to be before the start of the season, but given how they started this season, where they struggled for quite a number of weeks, and they've finally, you know, got that formula together, that winning formula together. The squad's playing fantastic football, and they're exactly where they want to be. Frank Casher, I'm sure, is delighted at where Monaro are right now, and he'll want to keep that spot inside the top 4, no doubt. Ross, what did you think of this result in terms of Monaro, and just how it further enhances their top 4 chances?
Yeah, make no mistake, for me, this is a huge win for them. It was a big result. I mean, had they lost, Belconnen would have been back in, it would have been in the 4, and they would have been further ahead, and it would have halted that momentum. As it is, they've got the 3 points on the board, and they've created a bit of a gap now, haven't they, to West Canberra Wanderers and Olympic, who are dropping away, and it might be that 2-horse race for that 4th place with Belconnen United, who they've just beaten. And as you said, set the stall out early. Seb Woods should have scored in the first minute, I think it was, wasn't it? And he should have scored the goal, but didn't. They created chances at the end. Alessandro Pena went through, clipped the outside of the post. Jeremy Habtemarian clipped a post as well. That curse of that Riverside woodwork continues. But they created the one chance that mattered, didn't they? And as you so eloquently put it there in the build-up, Michael, was brilliant. I mean, the ball it came off a throw from Tim Bobolas, and the Habtemarian brothers were involved, and Timmy continued his run down that flank and put over a ball that was begging to be finished. And it was a difficult technique for Tom McLaughlin to score against his former club, and he fairly buried it past Reece Lissinger, who didn't have a prayer in goal. It was a great finish, and it was a 3 points that Monaro really needed. They've got a match now on Wednesday against Tigers FC, which is a bonus for them now. If they can get anything out of that, that is a bonus. Their big one was this one. They needed 3 points here. It was no good to them, really, to lose this and then beat Tigers. It would make no sense for them in terms of their league season, as much as it would have been a boost to the players. But they've got this one under their belts. The work's not done, though. There's still plenty of games to go, and Belconnen will look at their fixture list that they've got coming up and compare it with the Panthers, who've got a fairly testing one coming through. And, you know, we may see, and I'm sure we will, plenty more twists and turns for the end of the season. The one thing for Fab Michelli, I think they didn't create much in terms of an attacking threat, did they? There wasn't too much going forward for them. That happens. I think we're seeing that a lot in games that we're doing. I think players are becoming tireder as the season goes on, due to the short year last year, in my opinion, and maybe lack of conditioning. But there's not as many chances as you'd think. Players' passes are going a bit scrappy, but I think it's going to make for a very exciting last few weeks. And both these sides are both in contention still, but advantage Monaro.
Matt, any thoughts on this result for the Monaro Panthers?
Yeah, like Russ put it, this was the most important one for them. Importantly for them, now they're in the driver's seat. They control their own destiny. It's taken them a long time to get themselves in this top 4. They're going to want to solidify it. And if I know it's not an easy match against Tigers, but if they can get something from that, it sort of helps in that position. Like Russ just mentioned, it's all in their hands now. They've been working for a while to get there. Before we move on, my question to you, Russ, was about Belconnen United. They've been, they started the season pretty well. Then they went through that, period where they didn't get a win for ages. They've been doing pretty well over the last couple of weeks. Now they falter. They're out of the top 4 again. What do you think they need to do to sort of get themselves back in it? Because the last time they dropped out of the top 4, it was a bit of a rut for them.
Yeah, it's a difficult one. I'm just having a quick check on their fixture list. They've got Tigers, Croatia, Gungahlin in their next 3 as well for Belconnen. So it's in their hands to get back into that top 4. But that's not an easy run, is it? By any stretch of the imagination. I think the problem is they're just not creating. I mean, it seems quite strange to say, and I think that may have been a one-off that Monaro really organised, because the week before, the chances they took against Canberra Olympic, Luca Flores was in fine form, got himself a hat-trick, didn't he? And they just need to go back to what they were doing at best. I still think Darren Bailey up front offers a lot in terms of movement, in terms of getting involved in that. But I still think he's a better defender. And if it was me, and it's not, and Fab picks his own team, I'd probably say, look, we've got young Curtis Schaefer on the bench. We've got young Max Green on the bench. We've got goal scorers there. It might be time to give them their head and let them have a go. I think that's their main problem. They're hard to break down. Defensively, they're very good. They don't concede many goals, but they just need at the other end to start putting them away again. It's not all doom and gloom for them. They're more than capable of getting results in the next 3 matches, but losing this one makes it a bit harder, but not impossible.
And Michael, what is our final matchup of the round?
Yeah, our final matchup of the round was Canberra Croatia getting a big win, and a much needed big win, I feel, at the expense of West Canberra Wanderers, 5-0 in this contest. Barak with 2, Teneski, Kolpataldo and Ugrinic added goals as well. Like I said, it's the sort of performance I feel that they needed after their recent bit of form that we've discussed on the last few podcasts and how they were struggling. But it seems that they've turned a little bit of the corner. Obviously, they've managed to pick up 2 straight wins now. That's going to obviously give them a lot of confidence heading into the remaining fixtures of this season and certainly into finals football as well. And I think for West Canberra Wanderers, I mean, they were right in that sort of game until, the 80th minute mark. It was only 2-0. They weren't playing too badly, but it almost looked as like they just completely capitulated after the 80th minute mark. I mean, to only be 2-0 down in the 80th minute, but then to go and ship 3 goals in the last 10 meant that they left with a heavy defeat that they didn't really need, to be quite honest. I think Canberra Croatia found themselves getting into a lot of space in behind the defense in that last 10 minutes, and it all seemed a little bit too easy. And it's a tough loss for West Canberra Wanderers to take, and they're in a really bad place at the moment. They've lost their last 5. We were talking about how great of a team they looked, over a month ago, being in the top 4, picking up big wins. But it seems as though that they're in a very bad rut, and they've almost done a complete U-turn on their form that they were displaying earlier in the season, which is sad to see. But to focus on Canberra Croatia, obviously they're top of the league by 1 point as the league table shows, albeit Tigers FC still have 3 games in hand over them in second. Russ, what was your thoughts on this result for Canberra Croatia? It's obviously a big win for them. It gives them a lot of confidence. 2 wins on the trot. And on the flip side, you've got a West Canberra Wanderers outfit that are really, really struggling at the moment.
Look, I think 5-0 was probably a bit harsh in the end on West Canberra Wanderers. You mentioned the 3 goals in the last 10 minutes. I'm not surprised it happened, because when West Canberra Wanderers would look at their goal difference, it was -10 heading into the game, and those above them, Belconnen were on -2, but Monaro were on -1. So they were already behind on the goal difference scenario. And I think at 2-0, the key goal was Nick Teneski's second. Ulysses De Silva's looked at his bench, and he's thrown on Lachlan Harrington, he's thrown on Marko Jadric, he's taken off a couple of defenders. He's gone for a result, and he's needed to get one, and he's thrown everything at it. It didn't work for him. And as you know, against Canberra Croatia, you leave gaps, you're going to get picked off. They can exploit them very well. I think that's why the scoreline blew out at the end. It was a bit harsh on them. To be fair, though, Canberra Croatia deserved the win. They were the better side for the majority of it. Daniel Barak probably should have scored before he did. Took his header really well. One of the key moments was at 1-0. Blaise Vlaslovsky got in round the back, didn't he? And then he volleyed that one over the crossbar when it was a good chance for him. They didn't create much, but they had some good spells, West Canberra Wanderers, even when it was 2-0. But that was the key for me. It went 2, and then, of course, when they went looking for it, they got picked off. Now, what tactically, and again, this is just my own personal opinion, sat there with Paul Townsend, we're looking at it, and they're trying to play out from the back, the Wanderers, and it's admirable that they're doing so. But time and time again, some of the passes on the weekend were too short, or they were played to players under pressure. Whether it be from Mason Interlandi in goal or from the defenders. You've only got to look at the Daniel Kolpataldo goal, which was a square ball across the face of your own box, which you never do, got picked off, and Kolpataldo tucks it away. Now, it's admirable that they were trying to play that and trying to keep possession, but sometimes I think Dino Grinic had an ace up his sleeve there. He'd obviously studied that, and he got the press, the high press up really quickly on that short ball out. And time again, they turned it over. And when you give possession like that to Canberra, Croatia, they're going to hurt you. You mentioned the league table, 1 point ahead, they're top. That's all that matters at the moment. And what that does do is, even though the Tigers do have 3 games in hand, all of a sudden it starts to put that little bit of doubt in the mind. They'll go to Riverside on Wednesday, Tigers. If they lose that, and it's an if, they're still a point behind, but it's now only 2 games in hand.
Mhm.
Then they play Gungahlin United, which is not a gimme at the AIS. If they lose that, they're still a point behind. It's only 1 game in hand. Obviously, it's in their.
Then they play Gungahlin United again. Correct?
Yes, they
After
do.
that,
Yeah,
in the catch-up.
the catch-up game. That's what I meant. The catch-up game. So if they lose their games in hand, I'm not saying they will, because they're in great form at the moment, and they could quite easily win them both and put this outside. But it does put that little bit of pressure on, and that's all that Canberra Croatia can do. They can just keep winning their games and just hope something comes up on the flip side for them.
That's right. Matt, any final thoughts at all before we move into the round 18 predictions?
No, I think you guys mostly just covered. I just thought it was a very, very impressive game for Canberra Croatia. Good to see Daniel Kolbatalo as well on the score sheet. I know he struggled with a few injuries this season. He looked like he's coming back to into his form, and that sort of helps. That'll help Canberra Croatia, won't it, heading into finals time when you've been in a bit of a rut and you can call upon someone like Daniel Kolbatalo to come back for it.
I don't know if you guys listened to it, but Paul Townsley was with me, and they brought Jason Ugrinich off the bench, and then they brought Daniel Kolbatalo off the bench, and then they brought Marko Verkic off the bench, and Paul Townsley's just laughing next to me, going, just the quality that they've got. At some stages this season for the Eagles, he's had 15 and 16-year-olds sat on the bench for him in his Canberra Croatia, bringing off players that have played 150 Premier League games each.
Yep.
And it's just incredible that what they've got there. And I think it showed in the result in the end.
It certainly did. And before we get into this round 18 predictions and previews, Russ, we have a couple of NPL1 catch-up matches first.
Yeah, we do. Tomorrow night, Greenway, Tuggeranong United versus Canberra Olympic, 7 o'clock, Bar TV Sports. Myself and Ian Worthington will take you through that one. And then Wednesday night, Monaro Panthers versus Tigers FC. The man to my right, Matt Nicoletti, will join me on the balcony at the Riverside to talk you through the Battle of the Big Cats Part 4. Is it? Something like that? 3? They played in the cup, didn't they? Is it 3 now?
It's Part 4 because of the cup, yeah.
Anyway, so lots of games coming up this week. So those 2 on midweek, plenty of football for you, and then we do it all again next Saturday.
There certainly is. It certainly is. And as this airs, don't forget it's Tuesday the 10th, census night.
So it's
census
night.
night.
So it's tomorrow.
Census,
So the
everybody.
game. Do your census whilst watching Tuggeranong United play Canberra Olympic from the Greenway.
You want a bit of
Two
inspiration?
birds with one stone.
This man right here is Andy and Worthington are the men to do it. All right, let's get straight into it. Round 18, West Canberra Wanderers, Canberra Olympic. Saturday, August 14th, 1:15 p.m. at Melrose Synthetic. This one is a very big one for both sides. For Canberra Olympic, because if they can get themselves a win midweek against Tuggeranong, let's not forget the midweek ones are always the hardest to win, especially if you're the favorite. If they can get a win and they get another win, they'll be close enough to that top 4, and that's more where they will want to be. In terms of West Canberra, like you mentioned, 5 losses in a row, or they haven't won in 5, something like that. This is big for them. They need to do it, especially if they want to make the final 4. Must win for both sides. The momentum, I know they didn't win on the weekend, but for me, it just seems like that Canberra Olympic have more momentum at the moment. I'm going to say Canberra Olympic victory. How about you, Michael?
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you there, Matt. I'm going to go for an Olympic W. It's tough because West Canberra Wanderers are in a very difficult situation at the moment. And I mean, to go through 5 losses in a row, you really have to sort of G the players up for this weekend. They need to turn that narrative around. They need to get themselves back in the winner's circle. But I think Canberra Olympic, they obviously have a very good opportunity to get 2 wins on the trot, and that's going to put them straight back into finals contention. So I'm going to go for Canberra Olympic.
Any thoughts on this one, Russ?
Yeah, I think you're both spot on. Whoever wins this one's right in a good place, aren't they? Because I think the Panthers go to Croatia on the weekend, Belconnen hosts the Tigers. So there's quite a chance that they will both lose those. So if West Canberra won, they'll be on 22 points, with Belco on 23, Monaro on 24. If Olympic win in midweek and this one, they'll be on 23, level with Belconnen. Just behind, you would imagine, on goal difference, but a point behind Monaro as well. So this is crucial for the top four aspirations for both these sides. And I think we're going to see that in the outcome. And I think the braver manager wins here. Whoever puts the onus on attacking this one's going to come away with the points.
Next up, we have Belconnen United, Tigers FC, Saturday, 14th of August, 3 p.m. at McKellar Park. This is it's going to be interesting to see how Tigers go, because they have a couple of back-to-back matches straight away. They play Wednesday, then they play Saturday, then they play Wednesday again, then they'll play Saturday or Sunday again, and they have one more catch-up match as well. So who knows when that'll happen? If that happens again, there's going to be quite a bit of backup, and playing such a short time frame, they might end up dropping points when a lot of people didn't think that they were going to drop any more points until the end of the season. So it's going to be interesting if they can win every match from here until the to the end of the season with all those backups back to back to back. That'll be pretty impressive for the Tigers. I'm not sure if that's going to happen, but they definitely have the momentum heading into this one against Belconnen United. Like you mentioned, Belconnen United just weren't able to create a lot against Monaro Panthers, and Tigers are just as solid defensively as Monaro are and lethal on the counter. I'm going to go with the Tigers FC victory. Michael?
I'm going to go for a Tigers FC win as well. I believe they've won 7 matches in a row in all competitions, and it obviously started with that FFA Cup victory over Monaro, and since then they've just been on an absolute tear, and I just expect them to continue that form. They're the most informed team in the competition. They're the best team in the competition as currently constructed, and I'm going to go with them to get the win.
Any thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I think Belconnen will give them a hard game here. I think this is one of the tricky ones for the Tigers to get through, and they can't really afford to. Well, they can afford to lose a couple, but I don't think they'll want to in terms of momentum. They're playing really well at the moment, aren't they? There's goals everywhere in that team, and they have Nick Popovic back now, which I mentioned earlier. So that will bolster their striking racks. This will be our live game on Bar TV Sports on Saturday afternoon. Make sure you tune in for that one. Should be a cracker. I'm looking forward to this. I think it should be a good game between two reasonable sides who are in good form themselves. And pleased to say that Grace Gill will be joining me for this one at McKellar Park on Saturday afternoon. So tune in for that.
The Dream Team's back. Next up, we have Canberra, Croatia against Monaro Panthers, Sunday, August 15th, 3 p.m. at Deakin Stadium. This should be a feisty affair. The other couple of matches were pretty close. They were close matches, very feisty, some very tough challenges in both of them. I think I'm going to say a draw here. Monaro looking pretty good form. Canberra, Croatia starting to find their form again as well. I'm going to say a draw here and maybe 1 or 2 apiece. It's hard to separate these two sides at the moment. Michael?
I'm actually going to go for a Monaro win in this one. I have a feeling that they're going to come away from Deakin Stadium with 3 points. I just like the football that they're playing at the moment. They're playing with a lot of confidence. They've got the 4 wins on the trot. They've got a lot to play for in terms of cementing a top 4 position, getting ready for finals. So, I mean, Canberra, Croatia, though, on the other hand, 2 wins in a row. We talk about how they've turned a little bit of a corner as well. But it's a very important game again, I feel, for Monaro just to get 3 points, especially when they have a game like you boys mentioned against Tigers FC to run back with. So I'm going to go for a Monaro win.
Any thoughts on this one?
Yeah, this is going to be a cracker, isn't it? I mean, about 6 weeks ago, we had the Thomas James return and send-off in this exact fixture at Deakin Stadium. I understand there's an appeal process in place for the other ban that may have happened with the incident afterwards. So if that comes through, I think he's available this weekend, which will add a little bit of feistiness
to the second one.
For this one. So I don't know for certain. I'll have to check all that for you, but that'll be interesting if he is. Look, either way, I mean, this is always a good match, isn't it? Monaro Panthers have only ever won once at Deakin Stadium in about 15 or 16 visits, so they'll be very much the underdogs here. However, they're in good form, and I'm looking forward to this one. David Jordan, former Capital Football media manager and former media manager of the Mariners, will join me for this one at Deakin at 3:00 on Sunday. I think, like you do, Matt, there will be lots of goals in this one, and it'll be well worth tuning in to see what happens.
Next up, we have Gungahlin United against Tuggeranong United, Sunday, August 15th, 3 p.m. at Canberra 201. I'm going to say a Gunners victory here, but if Tuggeranong United can take advantage of a midweek fixture, which is always, like I said, it's always difficult for the favourite, then maybe they give themselves a bit of an opportunity in this one. I just think when Gungahlin get ticking, as we saw on the weekend, they're a very hard team to stop. So I'm going to go for the Gungahlin United victory. Michael?
Yeah, well, it looks as though I've picked all the away teams for the round of fixtures this week. So I'm going to go for a Gungahlin United win. Like I mentioned previously, they're in good form at the moment. I think considering in a game where you've managed to come back from a 2-0 deficit and win, kind of shows the sort of fight and spirit and character that your squad possesses, and you need that as one of the biggest teams in the competition. And we all know Tuggeranong United struggles. I don't have to get into it too much, but I'm going for a Gungahlin United victory to get the 3 points and keep themselves in and around that third spot, but maintaining a bit of pressure as well.
Russ?
Yeah, I mean, Tuggeranong, you'd think, have to win a game at some stage. I mean, I don't believe that they're that bad, and they go through the whole season without a win. So they've got to win somewhere. I mean, maybe this is the weekend. I mean, Gungahlin looked vulnerable defensively, even though we were talking about how well they've done individually. In the first half an hour on the weekend, they looked very vulnerable and they got at. Tuggeranong's main issue, as it's been all year, is putting the ball in the net. They've had plenty of chances to do so in games that they've lost. Belconnen most recently, when they should have been 3 up in quarter of an hour, really, and lost the game 2-0. So it's all to do with the start. Whoever gets the first goal, as you mentioned, Michael, if Gungahlin go ahead, heads might drop for Tuggeranong because it's been a long, difficult season, and I think they'll be happy to see the end of it. They'll still fight because they're mathematically knocked down, but it's going to be a long way back from them from here.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back. NPLW rejoining me. It's been a couple of weeks. Matty Moore, glad to have you back. How you been, mate?
Yeah, good, mate. Great to be back. Yeah, first time in a couple of weeks. Looking forward to talking some more football with some of my bolder claims in the last few weeks looking pretty miserable for Gungahlin in particular, proving me wrong. So now ready to be wrong all over again. So yeah, good.
Yeah, I did get it was funny when we got the message when you messaged me during one of those matches saying, geez, I got that right, didn't I? But that's the questions you were asking. You asked if they could step up to the occasion, and they have recently, but we'll save that for that match. Let's start chronologically. The only Saturday match, and because Belco are the only ones where their home matches are on Saturdays mostly. Belconnen United, very impressive 6-0 victory over Canberra Olympic. Price, Ewan, Thornton, Johnson, and Bomford with a brace. Matty, like I mentioned, huge for Belconnen as they want to stay in line with Canberra. Croatia, of course, they're still 3 points behind, but they need to keep the pace just in case Canberra, Croatia slip up. More importantly, it was just such an impressive performance in general from them. Bomford's brace now puts her in the top 5 of the goal scoring chart, actually. And Michaela Thornton's goal, absolutely classic Michaela Thornton, driving herself into the box, and instead of just a massive boot or a thunderbolt, just a nice little dink in the bottom left-hand corner. Well, I thought I wrote down how many goals Bomford scored, but I didn't. It is, I just quickly looked it up. It is 13 goals. Like I mentioned, she is now in the top 5 of the goal scoring chart. In terms of Canberra Olympic, not the best day at the office for them. Biggest concern for Olympic now is they are officially out of the top 4 as it stands right now. Only 2 points off it though, so they won't be hitting the panic button or anything like that anytime soon. But to be fair to them, they were facing Belconnen United. That seemed like a bit of a steam train at the moment. Matty Moore, what do you think about this one? Impressive from Belconnen.
Yeah, it was. I was lucky enough to be out there on Saturday as well, just sitting in the stands. And the start from Belconnen, I think, told the story, with Price scoring in the first 4 or 5 minutes of the game, really set the tone and seemed to really deflate Canberra Olympic really, really early on, especially on the back of, probably a bit of heartbreak last week for them. And Sam Price in particular in the last couple of weeks has been a really valuable addition to that lineup and how they've gone about it. Her mobility and creativity has been brilliant. And she's someone that's always had that potential to unpick defenses, not necessarily just from a goal scoring point of view, but being able to play other people in and find those little gaps to play that killer ball or develop that combination. So she's been a really important addition, especially with Katie Woodman being in the other team with a little bit of injury as well. So she provides, more than adequate cover in that space. And young Ewan steps up to the plate again. You mentioned Thornton's goal. I actually cursed her a bit before the goal because she gave the ball away, and I thought it was terrible. And
she would have appreciated that. That just would have made her want to make her want to score again.
Yeah, she turned the ball over, and I thought it was ridiculous. And 2 seconds later, she's putting it in the back of the net. So maybe that's why I'm not a coach anymore. But yeah, look, for Olympic, it was a hard day at the office, and you sort of got the feeling, especially 1-0 was going to be hard. At 2-0, that was a killer, and that Thornton goal right on halftime. They made it 3-0 right on halftime. That's anytime you concede it right on halftime, it's a bit of a killer. And both teams actually came out a little bit sluggish and a little bit flat in that second half. And then, Belconnen came home again with a bit of a flourish. And the thing that's probably concerning Olympic a little bit there was that they just weren't really in the contest. Like they didn't threaten as much as we would have expected them to see. The sort of linkages through the line to them weren't there, and they were probably a little bit too easily stretched from their midfield to their defensive block, and that'll raise some concerns for the coaching staff there. But it's not the end of the world. You have an off week, that's fine. They're not out of the race for finals, and I need them to come through with the goods, so my prediction still makes sense. So I think there's still quite a bit to play, but as we know now, they're running out of time, and on the outside looking in, they're going to have to fix it pretty quick.
Yeah, that's 2 losses in a row now for Canberra Olympic. Next week they have Canberra, Croatia. So if sort of history repeats itself and they're not able to get a victory over those 2 big sides, and that's 3 in a row, and if just looking at the ladder now, if Woden, let's just say hypothetically, if everything goes wrong for Olympic, Woden get a victory, and then they'll end up in 6th place. That might might cause a little bit of concern for them there. What do you think Olympic need to do to sort of test, to sort of get past these this next week or so? It's going to be a very important time for not just them, everyone in that race between 3rd to 6th.
Yeah, I think that the big key for Olympic is probably for the last couple of weeks has been that defensive pressure in the middle of the pitch, so in that midfield area, and even go back a few weeks ago where they were thoroughly outplayed by the academy in the first half, and it was all around the speed of the academy's midfield and the press in there and the drop off from Olympic, and then in the second half it turned around. Their press and their tightness through their middle line actually created all the problem and all the havoc. So it really seems to be really centrally located in that midfield area. If they can get immediate pressure on that ball, that'll allow them to win it and release your Vanderbushes and your Sykes really early before the other team get their defensive structures reset. And I think that's the key for them. They need to win that ball, through that midfield area as quick as possible and create a bit of chaos going another way. They don't want to be up against structured defense because their midfield at the moment, no offense to them, hasn't been the most creative in the last couple of weeks. So the best thing for them is to win it and go fast, almost like a mini counter-attack sort of aspect for them. And I think that's going to be the key. They've got to shut the ball in the middle of the park because that back four is getting more and more stretched every week, despite the quality that they've got in there. And unfortunately, there's some question marks over the goalkeeping aspect in there as well. So the higher you win it up the park, the less pressure you're putting that group of 5 at the back under.
And let's move on to a team like you put before that you were sort of doubting before, and they've they've proved you wrong a little. And to be fair, though, considering the form they were in, the questions needed to be asked. I'm sure they were asking themselves all that. And they've really have bounced back the last couple of weeks. That's Gungahlin United. They now find themselves in third place. Sensational 6 in terms of the goals, 6-0 over Wagga City Wanderers. Nat DeMarco with 2 goals, Jade Brown with a goal, Penny Field with a hat trick. Yeah, like I mentioned, not only was it big in terms of the scoreline, they now find themselves in third place with a healthy goal difference. Even when they were in 6th place, they had a better goal difference than the 3 or 4 teams that were above them. So that always helped them. No Bridget Sander anymore. She is now off to America to play in the college system. That's a massive achievement. And the college is Concord University in West Virginia. So best of luck to her. Not the best day at the office for Wagga City Wanderers, but like we mentioned last week, especially like we saw in that game against Tuggies, they got another 2 injuries. I'm not sure on the updates of them, but if they keep gaining injuries and those sort of things sort of happen, it just seems like fate and luck and all that isn't going Wagga City Wanderers' way at the moment. So far this season, it's just going to be even more difficult. But they're always going to keep fighting, and I'm sure they will next week as well. What did you think about this one, Matty?
Yeah, look, probably the only problem with doing your podcast is that everybody knows when I'm wrong. So that's the only downside. So, look, Gungahlin, impressive. They really, really were. Yesterday, it was nice to see Nat DeMarco in particular work herself into some spaces and let her technique sort of really shine. Great finish from Jade Brown too for her goal. She really struck that sweetly. I was very impressed with that. And Pennyfield with a hat trick. What can you say? The thing that really stood out for me for Gungahlin was that it's the first time in a long time I've actually seen Maddie Percival really drive from the back line and overload the midfield as much as she did. Whether that was the circumstances of the game or whether that's, by design, because that's what they're trying to drive now. But she really had an impact in asking those Wagga City defenders different questions. Is that midfield going to step on? If the midfielder steps on, does the defender step on? And just the overload that she naturally created and her distribution was reasonably good as well. So that was really pleasing to see, because that's something that we haven't seen as much of so far this year. But they're doing everything that they can. They're ticking all the boxes now in terms of racking up the goals. And when they win, they do tend to win big. I mean, there's no doubt about that. And a couple of tricky games still to come for them, but they look in control. And the great thing for them is that they're in control of their own destiny as well. They're not relying on somebody else to slip up and make something happen for them. So Diego must be absolutely pleased. And, on the back of the midweek game that they had against Canberra, Croatia, where they were close too. They were very, very close there.
I was saying this on the when we recorded the NPL 1 and 2 just before, in terms of Tuggeranong in the men's and Olympic. They're going to play a midweek matchup on Tuesday. And even though Olympic are the favourites, I mentioned that match right there that you just mentioned, saying that, and even like Tigers and Tuggeranong, I believe it was Russ and I did that earlier on, where the midweek matches rarely help the favourites in the matchup. They rarely do, whether it's because everyone's been working all day or they got to back up in between the week. Like Tigers have to back up like 4 times now, considering all the matches, or 3 times or something like that. Like that, those matches rarely the backups rarely always favor the favorites. So like you mentioned there, they did very well, and they nearly got a draw out of it, didn't they?
Yeah, they were desperately unlucky, really, at the end there. But yeah, full credit to Gungahlin. For Wagga City, it's rough. A couple more injuries doesn't help. We knew they were, even halfway through the season, they were having problems with injuries. But the fact that they turn up, and there's still a lot of grit there. And imagine now it's all about the planning for next year. So what you're doing is you're setting your training sessions and you're setting your match targets based on what you want to do in 2022, and seeing a little bit of success. And there's still patches in every game where they look threatening, where they look like they're going to do some damage, and that's the pleasing thing. They're not turning up, and you might read 6-0 and think it was a walkover and they didn't do anything. But there's still patches in games where they look more than capable, and it's just a matter of creating, a bit like, you know, I've said about Tuggeranong previously. You know, it's just about creating more of those moments for them and a bit of repetition. And you just hope they get through the rest of the year unscathed and they're able to, you know, reset, rebuild, and have a good preseason and show their true colours come 2022.
And you mentioned Tuggeranong. Next up, we have them against Canberra, Croatia. 6-0 for Canberra, Croatia. Palombi with a goal, Gill with a brace, Hagan with a brace, and Fogarty with a goal as well. Sort of a similar story to when Canberra, Croatia last visited Canberra. It took them until the last 20 minutes to score the majority of the goals, 4 of them. I believe something similar happened to when, I think it was Russ and Jeremy were there last. Something similar happened in that regard. I don't think Paulo Romero is in charge at that point yet. Jenny Bissett, from what I saw from the goal, she was the driving force, as she has been all season, in terms of getting that ball forward and starting the play in that regard. Grace Gill, recently, the last month or so, she's been on fire. That brace puts her on 14 goals, 4th place in the leaders scoring charts. And the first was particularly great. Classic Grace Gill, great strike from her. Palombi, that goal gives her a 2-goal buffer now over Ashley Sykes at the top of the goal scoring chart. Hagan, 2 fantastic goals. It seems like she scored quite a few this season, being that little bit of a further forward position since Bissett's there in the holding role. And at the moment, she seems like she can only score great goals at the moment. And it was also good to see Olivia Fogarty as well on the score sheet, considering all the work she does off the ball, especially in those big matches. And Tuggeranong, on the other hand, hot off the heels of their first win of the season. It was always going to be a tough task against Canberra, Croatia. And like we mentioned in the previous matchup that they had against them, they did well to hold them out for as long as they did. But for them, they're going to be looking for these positives and keep building on it. Matty, before we talk about Canberra, Croatia, you haven't been on the show since last week where Tuggies got their first win, and it was a well-deserved one. What do you think about that?
Oh, man, it was brilliant. Like, that's one of the happiest, you know, from a neutral point of view that I've been in a women's game. You know, I mentioned I think it was when they played West Canberra, and my heart just broke for them with, you know, sort of the last second stuff that cost them, and the relief for that whole group would have just been immense. You know, nobody wants to go through a season without a win, and it probably helps validate a lot of what Paulo Romero has done. And I think I've mentioned a couple of times that when he came in, he said to the players, "Give me a month, let me show you what I can do." And the proof is in the pudding. You know, they've been super competitive since he got there. He's changed a couple of things. They're tactically more aware. They're really keeping to some good structures. They've had a little bit of good fortune with some of their key players in terms of injury. They've been able to get a consistent team out on the park, and there really is positive signs there for them. And they really need to start thinking about locking down the majority of this group, and then looking to see where they can build for next year, because there's a good base there. And I'm not sure what Paulo Romero's status is there in terms of next year or things like that, but you would certainly like to think that he's done enough to, you know, plead his case for a full season next year and a chance to really implement what he wants over a preseason period. So I was beyond stoked for Tuggeranong, and you know, I know a couple of, you know, I've been fortunate enough to coach some of the players there previously, like Zoe Terry and stuff like that, and I know how much that victory would have meant to them. And you know, full credit to Tuggeranong, they could have packed it in with all the drama that they've had this year, but they've battled through and they've got the win. And you know, like I said, it's good foundations for them for next year as well. It's just a matter of retention now and a little bit of recruitment at the same time, and I think they'll be asking some questions of some of the big dogs next year.
Yeah, and in terms of Canberra, Croatia, what did you think about them today? On Sunday, yesterday.
Yeah, look, the big red machine just keeps on chugging along, doesn't it? You know, they'd be happy they've done enough. I think for them at the moment, it's probably I mean, I know they've still got the Belconnen United game to come in a couple of weeks' time, but for them, it's just about not slipping up more than anything else, and probably for Nick Brosnich and the crew, just fine tuning a couple of things here or there. They didn't panic. 1-0 was enough for them, and I know they came home with a flurry in the 70th minute. But if you go back and watch some of those goals too, Tuggeranong's probably kicking themselves for at least 3 of them. Where there's one where the keeper and the defender's miscommunication. There's at least another 2 where they just didn't clear the ball properly. So they've sort of handed half the goals to Canberra, Croatia, but solid. The fact that they can play, I guess, at an okay rate on a pitch that's not conducive to how they want to play, and still walk away with 6 goals is really impressive. And I'd echo your thoughts on Jenny Bissett. I mean, she's been our pick for them. And if there's anybody, we're used to seeing Grace Gill drag that team over the line, right? And she's got a buddy there, the ex-W League buddy as well, who's going to drag that midfield with them as well and make the world of difference. And it's hard to see who's going to stop them. Like it really is at this point. It's only going to be because they do something to themselves, is the way it looks at the moment, as opposed to somebody necessarily flying out of the blocks and taking it from them. So really interesting back end of the season for them, I think.
And if I'm not mistaken, if this ladder's correct, I know they're 3 points ahead of Belconnen United, but the 6 goals for them means that they are 1 goal ahead of Belconnen United on goal difference. So if it ever does come down to that, at the moment, they have the slight advantage in that regard. Last up, we've got Canberra United Academy. Big win for them over West Canberra Wanderers. This puts Canberra United Academy now in 4th position, tied with Gungahlin United on points. But of course, Gungahlin United, like I mentioned, have quite a considerable goal difference, and that specific goal difference is Gungahlin United have plus 23, Canberra United Academy have 2. So like I mentioned, very considerable goal difference there. And the goal scorers, Norris, Christopherson and Babbage. West Canberra, Sophia Chavera, once again with 2 goals. Like I mentioned, immense win for Canberra United Academy. Some very good goals. Christopherson's goal was really good. Norris, good to see her get on the score sheet as well. I believe that's her first of the season. Jeremy and I, especially me, was going on about how well she played and how well she did to sort of mark Palombi out of big stages of that game when United Academy faced Canberra, Croatia, and she ended up with her first goal of the season. And Letitia Babbage, what can I say? Just what a fantastic strike that was from her. One of the best goals I've seen all season. A worldie right in the top right corner. Hard-fought performance, though, from West Canberra, who found themselves making a comeback to go 2-1 up, falling, though, the last 10 minutes. And I forgot to mention that not much they could do about the Babbage goal, and that was literally one of the last kicks of the game. That's happened a couple times, actually, this weekend. It happened in the NPLW as well, with Queanbeyan scoring. So it seems to be a theme this weekend in Canberra football, last-minute winners or equalizers. West Canberra Wanderers, though, this does keep them out of the top 4 now, and specifically where that leaves them is in 6th place. They're only 4 points off the top 4, though, so if they can get themselves a win next week or soon, they should find themselves back in it, but they are a little bit at a disadvantage at the moment. What did you think about this one? Lot went on in this one.
Yeah, didn't it ever? I mean, the result for West Canberra and Zones probably disappointing. They would have been begging for at least a point out of that, and they probably thought they had it until Miss Babbage decided to unleash a right-footed rocket. Look, the Academy probably had control for most of the game, and though West Canberra certainly looked threatening. Again, that the loose ball and the balls in the air when you've got people like Maguire and Mackenzie looking to release those things and release the players. And from just that, they're a hard team to play too, because they are so aggressive on the run. They're almost like, and I don't mean this in a disrespectful way, they're almost like a more disorganized version of Belconnen, who also really like to run and charge with that ball. But it's a little bit chaotic in there, but they've found their number 9. There's no doubt about that. And she's been given two opportunities and taken them brilliantly well. The first one, I don't even know how it made its way through there. You go back and you watch that goal, and she's the only West Canberra player there, surrounded by 4 or 5 academy players. The coaching staff of the academy probably were pulling their hair out a little bit there, and then again an uncharacteristic error by Steffi Nikias, I think it was at the back maybe, who very generously played West Canberra through for their second goal. I don't know, maybe she owed her older brother Demi, who was playing for West Canberra, some money or something at home, so she had to fix her up. But for the academy, look, they continue to soldier on. Not one of their most complete performances in terms of two-way, but certainly well controlled, answered the questions that they needed to. Full credit to Norris there with a goal. Watching back and seeing the goal, she's just really kind of slotted in a little bit like the Thornton goal for Belconnen. No fuss, no muss. It was really quite simple and really easy for her. And the lead-up play for the academy and their second goal for Christopherson's goal, it started right at the back and they swept through, and how Christopherson gets that much room in that back line on her own, quality ball from Meg Roden to find her in, and then 1v1 she's slotted it. And to continue to push for the academy and that ball loop around and find Babbage, who's taken a touch and hit an absolute worldie. And credit to the officials as well, because they got it right. We've seen in big games, not just big NPL games, but like we're talking World Cup games where that's been wrong. Yep. And credit to them for nailing that and getting that right, and quite pleased for Babbage. I mean, this is a young girl with immense talent who, when she was about 14, had her ankle absolutely shattered in a brutal tackle, and it's been a long road back for her. She's a smart footballer. She's a smart kid with all the talent in the world. She lost 12 months of her young footballing life, and looks like she's now starting to find her groove again. And if she can, with her and Roden and Grove in the middle of the park, it's not a midfield you want to be dealing with too much if you come up against them in the finals. So yeah, well done to the academy.
And let's see how they can go this weekend. We've got some big matches this weekend. Let's go into round 18 previews and predictions. Wagga City Wanderers, West Canberra Wanderers, Sunday, August 15th, 2:30 p.m. at Gissing Oval. Like I mentioned, it's going to be tough for Wagga with all the injuries that they are accumulating at the moment, and it is a must-win for Canberra if they want to stay in this top 4 race. I'm going to say West Canberra. How about you, Matty?
Yeah, I'm going to concur with you there. I just think everything that Wagga City have got to deal with at the moment, it's just a little too much, and the desperation for West Canberra, I'm assuming, will be there, given they would have wanted at least a point. Because if they don't get something here, it's probably season done for them, to be honest.
And next up, Canberra Olympic against Canberra, Croatia, Sunday, August 15th, 2:30 p.m. at O'Connor Enclosed. I'm going to say Canberra, Croatia victory. Like you mentioned, the big red machine, they're a bit too hard to stop at the moment, but I'm sure Canberra Olympic will work on what went wrong for them defensively and in the midfield against Belconnen United. They'll put in a good performance here, but Canberra, Croatia, it's just going to be hard for teams to stop them at the moment. How about you, Matty?
Yeah, give me the big red machine there. I mean, the only reason I can see them dropping points here is because they've got one eye ahead to next week, to the round 19's contest. That's the only way I can see it happening. I just can't see how Olympic break them down enough to score enough goals to win the game.
And next up, we have Gungahlin United, Belconnen United, Sunday, August 15th, 3 p.m. at Gungahlin Enclosed Oval. I'm assuming the pitch is okay now. Otherwise, I'll put it on the other side of Gungahlin Enclosed, like that match was a couple of weeks ago against Canberra, Croatia in the midweek one. This is going to be interesting because Gungahlin United, like we mentioned, have improved quite a bit over the last 2-3 weeks. They're really starting to click. If this was like 2-3 weeks ago, you could say comfortably Belconnen United, but you can't say comfortably Belconnen United anymore. I still think they'll win it, but it's going to be a very close matchup. probably closer than the first time these two teams met at the start of the season. How about you, Matty?
Yeah, look, a few weeks ago, I would have just hands down said Belconnen, no doubt about that. And I'm getting ever closer and closer to jumping on the Gunners bandwagon, given that even though I wrote them off.
Complete 180.
Even though I wrote them off a few weeks ago. Look, I think it's massive for Gungahlin. They'll want points. They'll want to win to keep that momentum. And of course, Belconnen, they can't afford to drop points. You've heard, Michael say it. You've heard Michaela Thornton say it. We've just got to keep winning. And I think the desperation of both teams will make for a really intense contest. Might be a little bit scrappy. But I reckon we're looking at a draw for this one. Yeah.
All right, there we go. Canberra United Academy against Tuggeranong United, Sunday, August 15th, 3 p.m. at Hawker Football Centre. This is going to be an interesting one because there was a 1-1 draw between these two middle in the round 2 fixtures of matches. It had to be because Paulo Romero was still there, was there in charge at that time. And Tuggies played well in that one. Could have got a victory there. United Academy, it's another must win for them if they want to stay in this race as well. I'm just looking at the table now. Maybe if they lose or draw, maybe they'd still be okay considering that they've given themselves a 5-point gap over West Canberra, 2-point gap over Canberra Olympic. But for them to sort of solidify themselves, they need a win this weekend. I'm going to say see you away. But in saying that though, after Tuggies would still be filled with a lot of confidence after their win against Wagga. How about you, Matty?
Yeah, I think the Academy just sneak home here. I wonder if as exciting as Tuggeranong's win was a couple of weeks ago, they've been brought back down to earth a bit by Canberra, Croatia, and whether they can just get themselves up enough for this game. I think you said it's at Hawker, yeah? So
Hawker Football Centre, 3 p.m.
Yeah, pitch is significantly bigger, which is going to play into the Academy's hand. So I think they win, and also give themselves that buffer from 5 and 6.
All right, Matty, thank you very much for joining me. Before you head off, any last words? You're filling in for me, covering the matchup. Gungahlin United, Belconnen United, I believe, correct? With Jeremy?
Yeah, that's right. I'm hopeful by picking a draw, I won't have to wear a disguise, given my slanderous comments from against Gungahlin in recent weeks. Really looking forward to that. More than happy to fill in on that one. And I think as we get to these last couple of weeks, that top 4 is just going to be an absolute epic battle. I mean, every game is going to matter. I know we've got the big one in a couple of weeks that will essentially decide who the league champion is, but every flow-on effect, the Croatia and the Olympic game has an impact on the top 4, Gungahlin, Academy, West Canberra. They're all in it. It's exactly what we wanted at the start of the year, right? There's been complaints for ages that you might have a bit of a tussle for 4. But the 3 are normally settled. So this is probably the most exciting sort of season of football for a neutral like myself, and long may it continue, and hopefully a couple more last minute screamers this week as well.
That would be great to see. Matty, thank you very much for joining me as always.
No worries, thank you.
All right, let's get into some NPL2 action. First off, we'll kick it off with the team from Wagga. Wagga City Wanderers getting a win over Yoogali. Ochang and Stevens getting on the score sheet for the hosts, and Priest getting on the score sheet for Yoogali. It's a huge win for Wagga as they were able to claim bragging rights in the so-called Riverina Derby over Yoogali. Especially when you consider they've not fared too well in this fixture so far this season, losing both ties and convincingly losing as well. They were able to make up for those losses. They played very well on the day as well, which is always an added bonus. When you get 3 points, you always want to play well as well. So they'll be very happy, Wagga, with that performance. 2 scorers on the score sheet. They've been staples in their side all season. It was a charity home match as well, with the shirts made for the occasion and auctioned off for Wellaway's charity, raising 10K on the day. So, I mean, I think we should just give a massive props to that incentive right there. I think that's absolutely fantastic to raise the money that they did on the day for such a great cause. I think that should get all the love and attention it deserves. So well done to Wagga City and to Yoogali for, playing the match and having an event like that as well to cap off a really fine day in the NPL2 out in Wagga. So kudos to both teams. On the flip side of Wagga, Yoogali, they played pretty well from all accounts. They'll obviously just be disappointed that their performance didn't reap any reward. It didn't even get them a point. And it means that they're now 3 points behind White Eagles, who have a matchup in hand. So in the grand scheme of things, the result isn't great for them, even though they played well. And that plays right into White Eagles' hands now as well. So we just have to see how they go with that match in hand. Russ, what did you think of this result? And I guess just to highlight the charity raising that they were able to do on the day. It's fantastic news, isn't it?
Brilliant, brilliant initiative from Wagga City Wanderers, and we can only applaud that. And we hope that more clubs take notice and carry on and do some of the things themselves. I thought this was might have been a terminal result for Yoogali's top four prospects with a 2-1 loss to Wagga City, considering what's happened. However, looking at the official Capital Football League ladders at the moment, Queanbeyan City have been deducted 24 points. So now only have 10 points in fifth, which basically means the top four's sorted, isn't it, really? I mean, take an absolute miracle from here for them to come back in. We won't get into the reasons as to why that is, because officially none have been released, have they? No. We can just see that the points have been deducted, which means that Yoogali sit on 23 from 17, and where it was, like you say, 26 from 16. Both of them are in the top four now. So this defeat really is immaterial for their top four hopes. So at the time, and they didn't know it at the time, of course, they would have been scratching their head and going, well, didn't see that coming. But local derbies do that for you, don't they? And Wagga City Wanderers are probably a better football side than what their results suggest at the moment. And this would have given them a huge amount of lift. Unsurprisingly, Luke Stevens amongst the goals again, his 9th of the season. And he's their go-to man, isn't he, in these situations? And I think you've got to be disappointed they didn't get the result. But, fair play to Dave Leonard and his team. It's only their 4th win of the season, I think, or 3rd win of the season. And they deserve it. Great result for them, great for all the home support to see, and I'm sure they'll dine out on that one for quite some time. But for Yoogali, well, they'll look at it and go, well, it doesn't really matter to us right now.
You mentioned Luke Stevens there has been great all season. Ocheng as well has got himself on the ball or scoreboard quite a few times. Great stuff with the Wellways charity, raising all the money. That's fantastic to see. And you mentioned the top four sort of being solidified there. In terms of Wagga City Wanderers, on the other hand, though, you mentioned 4 wins now. That puts them in
Does that put them on
6th place?
5th above Queanbeyan? They're on 12 points now? Because I don't think this ladder's been updated in terms of 16 games. So I think they're on 12 points. So I think they're actually 5th. And they're above Queanbeyan, Western Molonglo and Brindabella.
Yeah.
So there you go. And if they
pending any appeal from Queanbeyan, of course.
Yeah, and of course with Western, like we're about to mention, getting a win as well, that puts both teams in very good positions to head into that matchup. And if considering Wagga City find themselves in 5th, if they can get a win on the weekend, or if even Western can get a win on the weekend, they can sort of solidify themselves in better positions than they probably thought they would have been, let's say, a fortnight ago. So it's sort of
best of the rest.
Yeah, best of the rest in terms of that. Next up, though, like I mentioned it, Western Molonglo 5-1, massive victory against the Brindis. Evans with 2, Sellers once again on the score sheet. He's found himself on the score sheet quite a bit this season. Delali, Al-Bushi, and Lawrence got the goal for the Brindis. Immense win, like I mentioned, for Western Molonglo, as the 3 points now takes them above Brindabella, because they were below them on goal difference before that. Solely into 7th position with 10 points, I believe. Still 2 points behind Wagga City Wanderers, though. Now with that amendment, that would mean that they're tied on points with Queanbeyan now as well. So Western would be very, very happy with that performance, especially for them that being able. We've seen glimpses of it from them as well. We all know about their injury issues this season, but they were able to put a whole 90 minutes together here, and it seems like they've reaped the rewards in terms of this performance. Centre back Rory Evans, though, scored his first goal and his second goal as well. So his first brace and his first goal. And apparently one of them, according to all reports, was a 40-yard cracker. So
get him up front.
Yeah, put him up front.
The Brindis, they'd be lost for words at the moment. This just hasn't been their season, but this fixture especially, they've gotten 2 wins before Saturday against Western, so they would have been looking at this one as one that they could have won, but it goes astray for them. I guess for them now, they're just going to have to put this one behind them and try and finish the season as best as they can. Any thoughts on this one, Russ?
Yeah, Brindis were in it, weren't they? 1-1 at half-time. Rory Evans' goal, Zach Lawrence from the penalty spot made it 1 apiece. Good result for Western Molonglo, considering they had to back up from Wednesdays. 3-0 loss to White Eagles in midweek. I know they had a pool session as well because there was no fields open for them. So obviously I sent a message to Ned saying lessons learned, pool sessions take 72 hours or so to kick in, don't they? Because they got out there on the weekend and they looked very rejuvenated. Got their goals in the second half and thoroughly deserved the victory. And as you said, put some level on points with Queanbeyan City. And if it stays that way, they only need a 55 goal swing and they'll be above them on goal difference, which is going to be funny towards the end of the year. But look, I'm pleased for Ned and his team. They've copped a bit of stick over the last couple of weeks, didn't they? But they've come back strongly. They were in the game on Wednesday against White Eagles for large parts of it. And they've got their reward this weekend with a very convincing performance. And nice to see the big centre-backs getting a couple of goals, isn't it? Getting them up there and banging them all, and their usual crew getting the others. And yeah, hopefully they can kick on for the rest of the year.
And in terms of the Brindis?
Yeah, Brindabella, they'll be disappointed because they'll have looked at this one and gone, this is one we can win. I go back to the mid-season transfer window, which has hurt Zoran Glavinic quite hard. He's lost a lot of his more experienced players from that group, losing your top scorer as well.
Performing ones as well,
yeah. Losing your top scorer to Belconnen hurt him as well. So for them, though, it's all about just kicking on for them, see what they can find at the end of the season. And I think you might find that Zoran might blood even more young boys before the end of the campaign in preparation for next year's NPL2 push.
And Michael, our next matchup, the big derby.
Big derby indeed, Matt. And it was O'Connor Knights who got a comfortable 3-0 victory away at Canberra White Eagles. I'm sure the Eagle Burgers were out in full force.
Big wave, probably. Remember the last time when we were there?
Yeah.
I had to wait ages, didn't we?
Nevertheless, it took O'Connor 6 minutes to put 3 past their rivals, which just highlights their quality. I mean, to score 3 goals in 6 minutes just basically feels like the snap of the fingers, and 3 goals are in the back of your net. So that's the quality that O'Connor possesses. The huge win also means that they've regained the lead over ANU by 2 points in the race for promotion. So that neck and neck battle is absolutely huge at the moment between those 2 teams. As seems to be the case in these big matches, O'Connor become very, very hard to break down. Their efficiency, proved to be a key aspect in this match as they waited for the right moments to break through. And 2 of their goals came after they had a man advantage, which once again, you got to take advantage and be lethal in those moments and in those situations. So that's exactly what they did. I think White Eagles will obviously be disappointed to be the ones that conceded 3 goals in a 6-minute time span, but they can point to, being a man down for two of them. But they were obviously 1-0 down already with 11 on the pitch. Overall, they found it difficult to break O'Connor down, as many teams have struggled to break O'Connor down, but they've turned their fortunes around recently. They're in a pole position to take 4th spot, which I think is in clear sight for them just to solely focus on capturing a top 4 spot. I mean, to have their fortunes, have their fortunes turned around per se. They're in a pole position to take 4th spot, which I think is what they should solely focus on at the moment, just capturing a finals berth. And we'll see how the next run of results and fixtures play out. Because obviously there's still a bit of football to be played, spots to be filled. So it's by no means over for White Eagles. They're still in a very good chance with that game in hand over the likes of Yoogali. So they're still in a good position, even though it's a hard pill to swallow, especially when you're losing to a rival.
Yeah, thoughts on this one, Russ?
Yeah, I don't want to correct your stats, but it was 3 goals in 4 minutes, which is even worse.
4 minutes.
Yeah, Paddy O'Rourke with a
My,
penalty.
3 and 4.
My source told me wrong then.
Paddy O'Rourke with a penalty after 72, and then Kresic 75 and 76.
Oh, jeez.
It's quite incredible when you wait for a goal and then all 3 come along very quickly. Obviously, the penalty broke the hearts of the White Eagles a bit, didn't it? And then when Kresic scores, it's all over. Again, we go back to the Queanbeyan City points deduction here, and the result probably beforehand for White Eagles, you're thinking, well, it's not going to hurt them as much as it probably would have. All things being equal and Queanbeyan losing, you would have looked at it and they would have come off that field going, oh, we've lost 3-0. And Yoogali have probably won in Wagga, and they didn't. So it didn't hurt them. I think the only way it does hurt them is obviously in pride, because as you're well aware, this is a huge matchup in Canberra, Eagles and Knights. And you never want to lose to your local rivals, and to do so at home is even worse. But credit to the Knights, they just keep going, don't they? They've got themselves a 2-point advantage now at the top of the table. It keeps twisting and turning, and I'm sure there'll be plenty more to come before the end of the season, especially with ANU and the Knights having to play each other twice, which is going to make very tasty matches before the push for promotion to NPL1.
Look, they certainly are. And Michael mentioned they broke down pretty well. O'Connor in these big games are just, like you mentioned, very, very solid defensively. That is the one massive takeaway I've taken from them this season. They've improved defensively immensely.
And game changes at the other end of the field.
Games, yeah, 100%. It's just they're all around the park. They really are pushing for this top spot. And like Russ mentioned, it's going to be some tasty encounters until the end of the season. And one of those, you just mentioned it, the team that they will be fighting for that promotion place is ANU. They got a 2-2 draw against Queanbeyan City on the weekend. Obviously in this one, this was before the points were deducted. So it was a different sort of mentality heading into this one. Queanbeyan's goals were from Walker and Adams, and then Carter's once again with a brace for ANU. Elation for Queanbeyan City at the time as they scored with literally the last kick of the game from all accounts. They were on the front foot for the majority of the first half, and from all accounts, they were the better of the two sides heading into that halftime, being 1-0 up, of course. They would be disappointed, though, that they weren't able to replicate that same form in the second half, because we saw an ANU come back in there. They went 2-1 up and were about to win the game before the last kick of the matchup. In saying that, though, they would take from that second half, from that first half against ANU and the final goal into this next matchup. But I guess for them, though, what does the points do what does that sort of points deduction do for them heading into the next matchup? We'll mention against White Eagles, but does this sort of change the season, the way they approach matches? It's hard to tell. That's only something we will have to wait and see for ourselves. Heartbreak for ANU, though, as literally, like we mentioned, the last kick of the game pegs them 2 points behind O'Connor. Like we mentioned, though, still 2 matches to play against O'Connor. So even though they are behind, it is sort of in their hands, because if they can, just playing hypothetical, if they beat O'Connor if they can beat O'Connor once or even twice, or get a draw and a win, they can put themselves in front of them. So it's going to be an interesting way to end the season, though. From all accounts, though, they had a very, very good second half, and like we mentioned, heartbreak for them at the end. What did you think about this one, Russ? Pretty exciting matchup. I wish I was there now, but
yeah, 2 apiece.
I was with you.
Yeah, 2 apiece. I mean, that's a good result, isn't it, for Queanbeyan City when you look at it at face value, away at the side that was at the top of the table. Sam Carter can't stop scoring, can he? 15 for the season. Ironically, didn't get any when they got a bagful the week before, but got himself a couple today and on the weekend. And they would have been disappointed that they didn't hold off for the 3 points. I think right about now, though, it's just keeping in touch, isn't it? So if you can be within a point or 2 points of the side above you going into those big matches you mentioned, it's in your hands. And the same for O'Connor Knights. And the way that both sides are playing, I think it will be. You touched on Queanbeyan City, and you've hit the nail on the head. Now their games heading into, they play White Eagles, they've got Yoogali as well, haven't they? And you look at it, and they play O'Connor Knights as well to Queanbeyan City. And you just wonder, once this is made official, in terms of what it was for, and you wonder how it's going to affect them as a club, and you wonder how their players are going to react. You'd hope that they'd come out fighting to prove a point. And that's all we can hope for at the moment. Again, let's just, they might appeal and they might get them back. Who knows? But we'll have to wait and see. Right about now, we can only go with what we've got in front of us. And they're well off the pace with 10 points. And what would have been a decent point for them on the weekend and a bit of elation for them coming away, having equalised in the last minute, turns to dejection at training this week. And now it's up to Gabby and Jair Wilk to try and lift their troops and let the board and everybody else focus on what's happening off the field. And they just focus on the task at hand, which is getting as many points under the belt as they can between now and the end of the year.
And if there's two managers to pump players up, can't think of many better in Canberra to pump the team up than the Wilks. Michael, what are our matches heading into round 18? Another pretty big round.
Yeah, you're right, Matt. So first up, we have Western Molonglo up against Wagga City Wanderers, Saturday, August 14th, 2:15 at Woden Park enclosed. This is going to be a tough one. I'm going to go for Western Molonglo victory at Woden Park. Matt?
Yeah, I agree. I'm going to go for Western Molonglo victory. It's going to be a close one, though. I think they do have the edge in this tie as well, and they'll be on a high from their win on the weekend, as will Wagga City Wanderers. But I guess Wagga have gotten more of these victories. Well, I know they're ahead of them on the table, but they have gotten more of these big victories than Western Molonglo have. So Western Molonglo, more importantly for them, that 90 minutes, putting in that 90 minutes was important for them, as was for Wagga. So who knows what can happen this one. I can see all three results sort of occurring, but I'm going to go for Western victory. Any thoughts on this one, Russ?
I think this could got potential to be a very exciting football match because neither side really has got anything to play for other than pride and league position. They're not going to make the top four unless there's an absolute collapse by those above them. Wagga City come off the back of that 2-1 win, as you mentioned, so they're riding high as a Western Molonglo. Both sides look like they've got goals in them. Both sides have conceded a fair few this season as well. So I'm going to predict plenty of goals in this one, and I think this is going to be a very exciting match. If you're in the vicinity, go and have a look, because I think you'll see a good game of football between two decent sides here.
Absolutely, Russ. And next we have O'Connor Knights up against Brindabella Blues, Saturday, August 14th, 3 p.m. at O'Connor enclosed. I'm going to go for the home team here. O'Connor Knights are the table toppers at the moment in this NPL2 competition. They've got ANU breathing down their necks. So every match from now until the end of the season is the mentality has to be win, win, win for O'Connor, because if they keep on winning, granted, if ANU keep winning as well until obviously they have to play each other, then they'll get the promotion. So that's just got to be the mentality at the moment. You take each game as it comes, and the mentality is and the mindset is just to keep on winning, just get the 3 points. So I'm going to go for O'Connor here.
Yeah, I agree. And let's not forget they did let that they did have a 2-point gap slip last week as well. So they, from their point of view, they're going to be thinking we can't let that happen again, especially like you mentioned with those two matches in hand. So I'm going to go for O'Connor Knights victory here. And let's not forget, I think also a big factor for them, a nice factor for them, is playing at O'Connor enclosed. They haven't been able to play there much recently in the last however many years in terms of their home matches. So they'll be happy to be back at their spiritual home ground in O'Connor. Any thoughts on this one, Russ?
Top versus bottom, and the 34 gap between the two would suggest there's only going to be one result. However, the two games they played this season have finished 2-1 to O'Connor and 1-0 to O'Connor. So there's not much between them. And we've seen it before, where sides go into matches against the team at the bottom of the table, flying high, scoring goals, maybe a touch of complacency. I'm not suggesting that Alex and Miro will send their team in with nothing but respect for Zoran Glavinic. But they've got a lot of pace in that Brindabella side, and we've seen that hurt O'Connor on occasions this season. And those two tight games between them will give the Blues a smidgen of hope. Everyone would suggest probably the Knights will win, and they probably will, but I think it's going to be a tough one for them.
Next up, we have another cracking match. Queanbeyan City up against White Eagles, Saturday, August 14th, 3:15 p.m. at High Street. This one should be a cracker. We'll see what Queanbeyan City team are going to see out on that football pitch in terms from a mentality standpoint, given what we've already discussed following their result against ANU and the point deduction and whatnot. So it'll be interesting to see what sort of Queanbeyan City we're going to see and what happens in that time from now and when they play on the weekend. Not taking into consideration what the ladder now says and states, I'm going to go for a Queanbeyan City win. I can only hope that they're going to feel some sort of rejuvenation to go out on that pitch, and especially in such a big game as well against the White Eagles. So I'm going to go for a Queanbeyan win.
Yeah. Any thoughts on this one, or have you mostly already covered it?
Oh, look, I mean, again, one of those classic matches, isn't it? Between two sides that are storied and you know, again, we've alluded to it, depends on what attitude Queanbeyan City has. I mean, the players that they've got won't want to lose matches. So I think it's going to be a good match, this one. And I think, again, it could go either way. If I was going to tip anyone, I think Queanbeyan City with home advantage might just nick it.
Yeah, I'm going to go for Queanbeyan City. I think they're going to have a point to prove after what has happened. And White Eagles, though, they'll definitely have a point to prove as well. Let's not forget they haven't played each other. They still have that match to catch up on. They haven't played each other since that Queanbeyan beat them 7-1 or 7-0. I don't remember the exact score. So they'll have something to prove. It will be a lot closer. White Eagles have improved since then. I'm going to say Queanbeyan victory, though, slightly.
I mentioned to Paul Townsley on the weekend that maybe they should just play for 6 points. Have a half and a half, 3 points, 3 points for the second half, and see what happens. I think I mentioned on air on the weekend, I actually saw that happen once in the women's competition where they played a league match and a cup match as the same game, which was...
Must have been running short for time.
I think Frank Cage sent me a message, said it was Monaro v Tuggeranong. They agreed that the match would be for both league points and a cup knockout game, which was kind of bizarre. So double whammy if you got beat.
That's literally hitting...
If you won
that's hitting two birds with one stone.
Absolutely.
Quite literally.
Yeah, anyway.
Last up, Michael.
Yeah, last up we have Yoogali versus ANU, Saturday, August 14th, 4:15 at Solomad Stadium. I'm going to go for ANU here. There's a bit of pressure on them. When you're that close to first place, who is O'Connor, you're eyeing promotion. You know that you can't afford a slip up in a game like this. There is a lot of pressure. Obviously, there is pressure on O'Connor to maintain the position up top, but there's also the pressure for ANU to maintain a close race in this race to promotion. They've got to be more motivated than ever to keep this battle going and hope that there may be a slip up along the way from O'Connor. Purely from their standpoint, they've got to go to Yoogali and they've got to get 3 points, and they can hope for whatever happens to O'Connor in their match up against Brindabella. So I'm going to go for an ANU win.
Yeah, I agree. I'm going to go for ANU victory as well. I think they do have the two match advantage over them this season. I know ANU won when they travelled there, and I believe they also won their home match against them as well. They're travelling again, ANU, and I do remember the last time ANU travelled to Yoogali, it was a cracker. I think it was 4-2. It was a stunning match. So hopefully it's a similar match in terms of the neutral. I'm sure the coaches wouldn't agree in terms of conceding all those goals, but should be a cracking match. But Yoogali are going to fight. They're going to have a point to prove after losing last week. But I think ANU will top this one. And like you mentioned, it's a must. They need to stay in this race. So when they eventually get to those two matches in hand, they'll be in a good position. Yeah. Any last thoughts?
Yeah, 4-2 at the Solomad and 2-0 here in Canberra for ANU in the 2 wins. But we mentioned it a couple of weeks ago, didn't we, when I was last on, about you look at fixture lists ahead and you try not to get ahead of yourself as a player. And you try and, as much as you can, ignore what the opposition are doing, but you don't. And I think Queen O'Connor will be looking at this and going, geez, we've got Brindabella at home on the weekend, and that's a winnable game for us. And ANU have to go to Yoogali, and it might be a tough one for them. And they might, Yoogali might nick a point off them there, and all of a sudden that 2 point gap could become 5 if everything goes their way. So they'll look at it. I think you're right, though. I think both of you have got it spot on when you say that the greater need for ANU now, that Yoogali don't need the points for the top 4, considering what we've talked about throughout the broadcast here tonight, probably means that ANU will get the points. And when Adam Condabiter has got a squad full of players that can score goals there, hasn't he? And they'll be confident that they can get all the way down there. For Yoogali, they'll possibly, and O'Connor, they'll probably be hoping that they have the journey from hell and then the bus gets there 5 minutes before kickoff.
Yeah,
all sorts of problems. But I think ANU far too prepared for that, and I'd expect them to come away with the points.
That's us done and dusted for NPL2 and the broadcast. Thank you very much, guys. Russ, any last thoughts? Any final queries before we head off for the night?
Yeah, I believe the Premier League starts this weekend, doesn't it? And
League has already started.
Football League started around the world, isn't it? It's absolutely brilliant. Football never sleeps. It was nice to have the Euros and the Olympics to just tide us over between seasons.
Yeah, it certainly was. Yeah,
that's right. I mean, I got home tonight and had a look, put the TV on, and there was no sport on. I was like,
I'll tell you what, I got my general sport fix with the Olympics. That's for sure.
Yeah.
My general.
100%. I watched some IndyCar racing today because I had nothing else to watch sport. It's actually quite good. It was in Nashville. Check it out. It was on a road circuit. About 14,000 crashes. It was quite remarkable. But yeah, I mean, I'm really looking forward to the Premier League this weekend. And of course, locally, we're very lucky that we're still playing football. New South Wales season has been cold, I think, and Victoria's the same. And we're very lucky here in the ACT. And let's enjoy it while it lasts. And everybody out there watching this and listening to this, please make sure that you continue to abide by all the rules that are put in place and sanitize, wear your masks where appropriate, so that we can continue our football season and hopefully, touch wood, get everything in before, if the worst comes to worst and we have to lock down. But fingers crossed we don't have to. Everyone's going all right at the moment and we're enjoying our football.
Yeah, 100%. Any last thoughts, Michael?
No, I think like Russ mentioned, I'm very excited that the Premier League is back this weekend, and obviously over the next couple of weeks the other leagues will slowly start as well, such as your Serie A and La Liga, and I'm very excited for the football to come back on television. I actually just put up an article on my Facebook not too long ago. I just wrote a story about United's chances at hopefully making a good title run, a good run, at the Premier League crown this season. So there's a bit of much needed optimism around there with the signings, and I'm very excited. I think it's going to be a very close Premier League campaign. There's a lot of good teams, a lot of transfer activity as well between a lot of the elite sides. Obviously, I won't get into too much because I've got quite the opposite feelings on them and what they've gone through this off season, which has been an absolute shambles. But that's for another day. But yeah, very much looking forward to action locally here in Canberra with the games that are on, all the exciting and important games that will be played over this weekend. So a lot of football.
I'm surprised that you didn't talk to Adam Conapedero in the week and ask him, now that Messi's officially leaving Barcelona, whether ANU have actually got themselves into a position to sign him, because they made a mention of it earlier in the year, didn't they?
Yeah, well, I'm sure they've contacted Messi's father at some point. So
actually, before we leave, I actually wanted to. I'll edit this bit out, but I actually wanted to. I think it'll come here. One of my I got a little bit of a sneak peek of what's actually going to happen with where Messi's going to sign. I'm not sure.
For Yoogali.
I'm not sure if it doesn't come off very well, but
yeah, I can't see the jersey.
Yeah, you can't see it. It sort of comes off. I might post it on the.
I think he's signed for Yoogali.
My manager from work, Nick, does the Pez stuff, and he does it on the thing, and he's made all the local shirts as well on the game, and it looks fantastic. And he's got the Yoogali top because he's from Griffith as well. He's got Messi and the Yoogali top on Pez. So congratulations, Yoogali and ANU.
In that case, are they sharing him a half each this weekend? Because I want to revise my prediction. If Messi's lining up for Yoogali this weekend, I reckon they might take ANU.
Yeah.
I'm sure he'd love to play out at Griffith there. I mean, the pizza's fantastic there.
Oh yeah, and to really sort of shoot ANU's title promotion hopes.
Better pizza.
Messi's the one that Messi could be the one to do it.
100%. Anyway, fantastic stuff, guys. Good banter as always, and great to talk about local football. Thank you very much, everyone, from us here at Canberra Football Show, big episode 40, and we'll come back to you next week for episode 41. Thank you.